Viva ARETA, viva! Phansi ngamathenisi phansi! Phansi ngamathenisi phansi! Phakama ARETA, phakama! Phakama ARETA, phakama! Rise up, Niehus, rise up! Rise up, Niehus, rise up! Rise up! Maqabane, thank you very much. Raleboha. Just want to make sure that we cover time. For all those of you who took time to come here, thank you very much. We are going straight to the political match. I believe we all know what all of us, we are heard. Every one of us here is heard. We are heard by the organization that we love. So it is very important and very imperative that we understand exactly where do we come from as a country. Where are we right now? And where does ARETA take this country to? So it is very important that we listen very attentively to everything. Today, amongst us, we are blessed with the presence of the leadership of the province together with the leadership of the national office. So I'm quickly going to introduce our political head here in Gauteng, who is Comrade Mpangazitha, who's going to do an introduction of the provincial leadership as well as the national leadership. Viva Comrade Mpangazitha, viva! Viva! Viva Comrade Mpangazitha, viva! Viva! Viva umuntu ozhola phambili, viva! Viva! Viva Khandale ARETA, viva! Viva!
I think without wasting our time, I'm just going to introduce the leadership and then we'll start our business of the day. But the main purpose of today was not about the political session, it was about a launching of branches. But due to, you see, Comrade Mike, there was no proper coordinations. But besides that, in any revolution, any moment of time, we must utilize it in a fruitful way. So in our midst, we have our national president of ARETA, Comrade K.Mzansi Niehus. I think all of us, even in South Africa, we know him. He's one of our leaders who's always, not only him, but who's always sending message and making sure that our people becomes more political than ever before. But let me go direct to our provincial leadership. On the right-hand side, I have Comrade Niehus, the provincial chair of ARETA. On the left-hand side, I think they flanked our president. On the left-hand side is Comrade Mpangazitha. He's our provincial secretary. In other words, the leadership of the province, and then we have the leadership of the national. I think as time goes on, comrades, you'll be able to see all of them, you'll be able to know them. Because ARETA is growing, and the ARETA is making some miracles outside. Everybody, especially from the other side, they are now starting to get scared of ARETA. I know some of the so-called leadership in another political organizations, they are crying, they are complaining about ARETA. I remember, Comrade Carl, one of our conditions that we were given by AAC was that we should ban Comrade Carl not to talk on Teta FM. And secondly, we must be able to give ANC a slot so that they must also talk on Teta FM. That was one of their conditions that, please guys, yesterday we were shocked because some members of the ANC at the regional level, they came to us and said, you know what guys, we can give you all the provinces, but please don't campaign in Gauteng. We want Gauteng for the last time. So who are they to give us permission? Because we are the national organization. We've got right to campaign all over South Africa. But we mustn't forget one of the key objectives, aims and objectives of ARETA is to capture politics and state power in order to transform the economy of South Africa, Comrade Mike. But besides that, Comrade Carl, because what is key, everybody wanted to hear what is the ideology of ARETA. I think one of our piping not a freedom charter, one of our Bible. You know, I like Bible because when I grew up, I was told about Matthew, I was told about John. Till today, I'm still told about one person. so ARETA is coming with something which is unique, of which it also inspires, it touches the hearts of our people in South Africa. But because in our midst we have the president of ARETA, we can only highlight the key points, which is our 10-point plan of ARETA, so that when we leave this particular area, tomorrow we must be able to articulate and explain clearly to each and every individual. Because once we are approached outside, especially when we are wearing this t-shirt, people will want to know, what is ARETA? We must also demystify this view of why ARETA is led by a white person. There is that argument to say, are we bringing the white people back to govern us? But the answer is one. I always tell them that when Comrade Karl leave his rich family and go to fight for us, to liberate South Africa, no one asks why white men join us. But why today they are questioning that why white men is leaving us. So it's not about the race, it's about the content. Sure. You know, and the ideology. Because if you can listen to Comrade Karl, no one can argue, no one can attack him. Everybody, he become convinced about what Comrade Karl is saying. Because I used to tell other comrades to say, amongst all these leaders in the ANC, Comrade Karl is a tried and tested cadre, and it's very clear. And that's the only one person who understands the agency. Yesterday we had our own discussion with Comrade Briggs and Jimmy. We wanted to refer Comrade Karl as Comrade as Paul in the Bible. Is it Paul? Paul. Yeah. you know Bible. Sure. When Paul was going to Damascus, he was struck by the lightning. And he started to know the truth.
They need lightning.
So we had a long and lengthy discussion about Paul and compare with Comrade Karl. Okay. So, but in the intervention of our interim structure chairperson, Comrade PLO, because they are going to collect some few comrades at Mtombolas. Comrade Karl will take the platform. When the regional chair came, we'll also introduce him. But by so saying, let me hand over to Comrade Karl, just to hint on the 10-point plan, so that we have another last appointment by 3 o'clock. Some of our cadres are waiting for us at Zone 3. Most of them are the military veterans, they are the soldiers. We met them 2 weeks ago, but they were not well organized. But today they said, they are well organized, they are waiting for us. Then we'll be leaving with that convoy and Comrade Karl is going to address accordingly. Thank you, comrade. Can Comrade Tiny? I'm not sure why they call you Tiny, but you are not tiny.
No, you won't understand. We are ARETA. Amandla. Viva ARETA, viva! Viva! Viva ARETA, viva! Viva! Comrade Chair, I looked for you here, but you seem to move on. But thank you very much for the introduction.
Thank you.
And I insisted that Comrade Tiny must sing because I love that song. So that song, Comrade Tiny, it was one of the first actions that we took as ARETA when we participated in the shutdown on the 20th of March. And I didn't even know that you were going to sing the song, but you started singing it. And we were there as the leadership, and I've still got beautiful videos of that particular moment. Comrade Tiny the other day said to me in the car as we were driving, he said, you know, comrade, you don't remember people. You remember what you've experienced with it. You remember particular incidents. So that experience, that incident, I'm going to remember for my life. But this morning, comrades, before I came here, I went to a funeral. And I want to start with why I went to that funeral. Because it would have been strange, perhaps, for me, who was
resigned from the African National Congress, who is now the president of ARETA, to go to a funeral that was organized and is organized by the ANC. But it was the funeral for Comrade Billy Matseka. And I want to bring another memory that I had, because that's how I remember Comrade Billy. Many years ago, in June 1979, now that's 43 years ago, I was taken out of the country to Botswana because I indicated that I wanted to join the African National Congress. I don't know, comrade, if that is that thunderbolt that you talk about. But yes, I had that insight that apartheid is wrong. I used to listen on my little radio hidden away in my room to President Oliver Tambo.
Radio Freedom.
And he was telling us on Radio Freedom that we all must unite to fight against racism. And he also told us that liberation is not just liberation from racism, but it is also economic liberation. And that those two things, economic liberation and liberation from racism, must go together. So once I had that insight, I could do nothing else, but I had to join the ANC. And I made the arrangements to join the ANC. So I went across the border to Botswana, and I was taken to a small little hill outside Gaborone. In Afrikaans we call it a koppie. And I was standing there, the people who took me there left me there. And I saw there in the distance, on a dirt road, the dust of a motorbike coming. And as it was coming closer and closer, it turned out that it was Comrade Billy Matseka. So Comrade Billy was coming to meet me. But we made sure that we could not be followed by the apartheid security police. So today when I was sitting there looking at the coffin of Comrade Billy, draped there in the ANC flag, I had that memory of the first day that I met Comrade Billy, and we hugged each other, and we sat down just there on the rocks, on the hill, and we started talking about our country. And we realized that we both loved that country. We both were young people. We both wanted South Africa to be liberated from racism. We wanted to see all the people of this country, especially the black and African people, to be free. Comrade Billy told me about his family. I saw them, I went, I presented my sympathies to his sister and to the rest of the family this morning. I met them many times before. I used to go and visit him in Soweto. Now, why am I telling you this, comrades? Because it is very important that we must always remember where we come from and why we've done what we've done in our lives. As we sit here, many of us have been with the ANC. We joined the African National Congress because that's the liberation movement that we knew. That is the ideals of the ANC as it is set out in the Freedom Charter. Those ideals that there will be houses and security for everyone, that there will be free and equal education for everyone, that the land should belong to those who work the land. All those 10 points. Those are the ideals that we carried in our hearts, that we hoped for. So, that's why I was there this morning. Because that's my history. And that is the history of many of you here. Comrade Mike has been in the ANC for years. He dedicated his life. Comrade Jimmy, we know Comrade Jimmy's history here in the Val. And many of you here, comrades. But something very, very terrible happened. And that something is that while we were working and while we were committing ourselves to this liberation struggle, there were others who infiltrated the African National Congress with a very clear intention to take the ANC away from its original liberation roots. And we can go back to that history of infiltration. It didn't just happen since yesterday. It even started happening while we were still in exile. I listened to a speech that was made by Comrade Ronnie Cashmore, where he said in the mid-1980s, there was a delegation of white monopoly capitalists, the Oppenheimers, the big capitalists from South Africa, who came to Lusaka to meet with the ANC leadership. And they said to them, look, we will accept an end to racism. But if you want to transform the economy, we won't accept it. If you want to take the land back to the people where the land belonged to, we won't accept it. If you want to take our big mines, Harry Oppenheimer was there. Clive Menell, who's also one of the big owners of Anglo-Val, were there in that delegation. They said, if you want to take our mines that we believe we own, and that we are running as Anglo-American and Anglo-Val, we will not allow South Africa to be liberated. They were as arrogant as that. But Comrade Ronnie says, the thing that disturbed me was how quickly the delegation of the ANC were there agreed to this. He said, within a few hours, they said, no, it's fine. We will allow the economy to continue as it was. So, comrades, already there was this infiltration. And as we moved closer to negotiations, when the African National Congress now realized it was going to be possible for the ANC to be unbanned and to return to South Africa, suddenly we were challenged with this situation that there were all kinds of secret meetings taking place with the big white monopoly capitalists, even before the negotiations started. In those meetings that happened in London, it happened in Stockholm, it happened in Washington, senior leaders of the African National Congress were part of those meetings. But we didn't know about it. Those of us who were fighting and battling here on the streets of South Africa, opposing apartheid, we were not aware that those things were happening. We can go back into the records of some of the meetings that happened with Comrade Thabo Mbeki and these senior white monopoly capitalists. They were helped by a man from the University of Stellenbosch who was very well known. He was called Professor Willem Estreys. And he facilitated those meetings. In those meetings, comrades, they already started to work out what are going to be the outline of how we're going to negotiate CODESA. By the time the ANC was unbanned by de Klerk, and the ANC leadership starting coming back, that framework was already agreed on. It was also inside the country from the white monopoly capitalists, their plan that they must bring Cyril Ramaphosa in to become the chief negotiator. That is why in June 1991, at the conference that took place, the first national conference of the ANC in Durban, there was an intervention to make Cyril Ramaphosa the Secretary General. And it was a very strange thing. Because Cyril, when he arrived at the conference, was not even a delegate. He was an observer. But because they managed the whole process with Madiba especially, because those big white monopoly capitalists, they went and they maneuvered and talked to Madiba and said, no, you see, we want Cyril to come. And Cyril was unknown, comrades. In many of our liberation circles, he was not even someone well known at that stage. I've told the story many times before because I sat on the stage in that conference just 2 chairs away from Comrade Oliver Tambo. And when Cyril walked in, Comrade Oliver Tambo pointed at him and said, Ubani Law, who's that? Didn't know him. But somehow they managed to manipulate to bring Cyril in as the Secretary General. They also worked very hard in that conference to prevent Comrade Chris Hani from becoming the Deputy President of the ANC. I'm telling you history now, comrades, but it's important that we must remember this history. In that conference, Comrade Chris Hani and Comrade Thabo, and I can tell you, people like myself and many other comrades, I was talking the other day to Comrade Dalium Mpofu, because remember, although he's now with the EFF, he was a strong member of the ANC. And people like Comrade Winnie Mandela and Peter Mukaba, all of those, we were working the ground in the conference to make sure that Comrade Chris Hani would become the Deputy President. And when they looked at the numbers, they realized Comrade Chris is going to win. Then suddenly there was an intervention. Again from the white monopoly capitalists talking to Madiba. And they came up, Madiba actually came up with a proposal, no, let's ask both Comrade Chris and Comrade Thabo to stand up. And the way he forced them to do so is he went and convinced Comrade Walter Sisulu to be prepared to stand. Now, I was part of some of those meetings. Comrade Walter didn't really want to stand. I love Comrade Walter. I think he was one of the greatest comrades. But he told us, when Madiba approached him, he said, Madiba, I'm old. We should bring in new blood. Why don't you allow the contestation to take place? And if Chris wins, it's good. But Madiba insisted. So eventually, Comrade Walter gave in. And of course, coming from the Rivonia trial, with the huge history that Comrade Walter had, neither Comrade Chris nor Comrade Thabo could stand against Comrade Walter, so they withdrew. But it was organized, comrades. It didn't just happen automatically. And the intention was to keep Comrade Chris out of the deputy presidency. And I'm convinced 100% that Comrade Chris would have won. Because if you go back to the outcome of the additional members of the National Executive, Chris has a huge majority. He's number 1 there. Comrade Thabo is way down. So that gives you an indication that Comrade Chris Hani would have won if he was allowed to stand. But the intention was to keep him out. But Comrade Chris, being the person that he is, and that he was not to be put down. He was someone who was a go-getter. And his popularity was amazing. You know, I once had to go to Kimberley, because Comrade Chris was supposed to go to address a rally in Kimberley. That was in 1992. But there was a problem that his flight was delayed in Umtata because of bad weather. So he couldn't get there. But the stadium was full. Then someone called me and said, can you please go on behalf of the NEC and explain to that stadium that Chris can't make it? I said, why me? You're throwing me under the bus. But I went. When I got there, I told the stadium, Comrade Chris is unable to come. Chaos broke out. The people came forward, they said, no, we want Chris here. You say his plane is delayed. We'll wait until his plane can come. I phoned, eventually I got hold of Comrade Chris. I said, you must come. There's no other opportunity or any way out for you. You must come. He said, but my plane can't take off. I said, don't worry. When your plane can take off, come. You will find a full stadium. 12 o'clock that night, Comrade Chris arrived. And when he walked into that stadium, the whole stadium erupted. People were hilarious. They were so happy. But you see, comrades, there were other leaders with very, very jealous eyes inside the African National Congress watching this. And there were those in the white monopoly capitalist people who said, this man is going to eventually become the president. You can see he's got the people. And that's why, comrades, they decided to do it. Because they had to prevent Comrade Chris from ever being able to get into power. Not because of him as an individual, but because of the ideals that he stood for. Those ideals that the people must be empowered, that the land must be returned to those from whom the land had been stolen, that we must nationalize our South African Reserve Bank, that we must give the economy back to the people, so that black and especially African people can be in control of the economy, that we must nationalize the mines. Remember what I said earlier? That agreement that was made between the owners of the mines and the ANC leadership, Comrade Chris was dead against it. He said the mines must be nationalized. And he criticized the CODESA negotiations severely. 5 days before he was assassinated, I was with him in Boksburg at the meeting. And he stood up and he said, CODESA is selling us out. We must stop it. We must stop this clause in the Constitution, the proposed Constitution, that will guarantee property rights. And he used the example that I've used before. I always use the example of Comrade Mike, and if Comrade Mike's bakkie is stolen today, and he finds out where the bakkie is Comrade Mike going to go to that house where the bakkie is and say to the thief who stole it, here, can I pay you for my bakkie? Never! It's absurd. It's ridiculous. But comrades, that is exactly what happened at the negotiations. We agreed that if we want the land back, we must pay for it. Ridiculous. And Comrade Chris criticized those things. So there was, as far as I'm concerned, and there are many comrades who agree with me, there was a conspiracy by white monopoly capitalism, also by the intelligence forces of the imperialist nations of the United States and the United Kingdom, and also people inside the ANC, to get Comrade Chris killed. Comrade Chris was not simply killed by one lone gunman, Janusz Walsh. He was killed by a whole conspiracy because the intention was not just to kill the individual, the person, Comrade Chris, but to kill the ideals for the full empowerment of all the people, especially black and especially African, in South Africa. That ideal that I said earlier, that I used to hear Comrade Oliver Tambo speaking about on Radio Freedom. So, comrades, why am I telling you all of this? I'm giving you this history to say there were those of us inside the ANC, myself, other comrades, when Comrade Winnie Madikizela Mandela was still alive, Comrade Harry Gwala, Comrade Chris until he was assassinated. Many of us who were fighting for the full liberation and for the full ideals also of radical economic transformation. And all of us, because we joined the ANC with this love in our hearts for full liberation, didn't want to just leave the ANC. We loved the ANC. You know, we tried inside the ANC all the time to change things, to resist what was happening when under Comrade Thabo they changed the RDP to GEAR and made it a new liberal economic policy program, which they continue to implement up to this day, with disastrous consequences for our economy. We consistently resisted that. But as time went on, we started realizing that this African National Congress is slowly but surely becoming something that we have not joined. It is changing. That ANC, that the long queues of people in 1994, I don't know, many of you, some of you are old enough to have been there and to have participated, others were young. But I've got the memory, I voted in Alexandra. I've got the memory of that long queue of voters. And people went to vote. They went to that polling station to make their cross with so much hope in their hearts. So much hope that this African National Congress is going to change our lives forever. Now we are going to see everything that we have struggled for. All the suffering will have been worth it. But it's 30 years later, comrades. We've betrayed those ideals. We have betrayed those South Africans who trusted the ANC so much, who stood in those queues. You know, I've got this memory of an old lady. She was over 80. When she came, she could hardly walk, but when she came out of that polling booth, she was jumping. She was singing. She was so happy. And we betrayed her. We betrayed her children and her grandchildren. So, comrades, as time went on, more and more of us realized we're dealing here with an organization that is being eaten out from the inside by all those sellouts, by the agents, and they are not going to allow the ANC to deliver the true message of full liberation. They're just there for themselves. They're just there to fill their own pockets. And they have masters that are not even inside this country, who tell them what to do. So we reached a point, comrades, where we said, now it's make or break. Either we're going to get control back of the African National Congress or something else must be done. And I said before the 55th National Conference, if Cyril Ramaphosa and those sellouts come back as the leadership of the ANC, it will be impossible for me to be able to stay in the African National Congress. Not because I wanted to leave. I can tell you, comrades, I honestly always wanted to be in the ANC. There are many articles where I'm quoted where I said, I love the ANC. I used to call the ANC my family because it was the only family that I had. My own family rejected me. When I started to fight against apartheid, my dad threw me out of the house. And I was rejected by my Afrikaans family. Most of them reject me up to this day. But now, comrades, what are we supposed to do? At the 55th National Conference, they once again bought that conference. Cyril Ramaphosa and those sellouts around him came again with millions of rands. And they bought the people who voted for them. They manipulated the vote in that conference. So myself and a number of other comrades said after that conference where Cyril was re-elected, I don't even want to call it re-elected, where he was crooked back into power. We said we can't stay. We can't stay because now we have to be honest with each other. This ANC that is now there is not the ANC of the past. This ANC is not the ANC, Comrade Jimmy, that I joined in June 1979 on that small hill outside Gaborone with my comrade Billy Matsetla, who we bury today. This ANC is not that ANC. This thing has become an instrument not of liberation, but of oppression. And they are cynically using the logo of the ANC, the colors that is associated with the ANC, all of that they're cynically using to still get people to vote for the ANC. But sadly, when people vote for the ANC, they are not voting for that ANC that they believe they're voting for. They're voting for another thing. They're voting for a thing that has become an oppressor. So that's why, comrades, we decided to create the African Radical Economic Transformation Alliance. ARETA was formed out of that deep pain. But not just pain, also hope. We sat down and we said we've got hope that we can still achieve those liberation ideals that we dedicated our lives to. And those ideals have become the ideals also now of the African Radical Economic Transformation Alliance. If you go to the 10-point plan of ARETA, the first point in the 10-point plan says the land must be returned to the people. Expropriation of land without compensation. The second point is we must make sure that our state-owned enterprises remain in control of the state, in control of the people. We can't have SAA and Denel and Armscor and ISCOR and all of the state-owned enterprises privatized. This is the people's wealth. These are organizations that are supposed to create jobs and uplift the people. But they sell them off, they break them up, they privatize them. They make sure that they can put the money in their own pockets. They go even overseas and make promises to Joe Biden of the United States and to the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Cyril went to the UK and he spoke to the House of Commons, to the Parliament of the United Kingdom, and said, I promise you I'm going to break Eskom up. Eskom won't continue to exist, it will be privatized. He made a promise to them. And he asked them, give us money, loan us money to be able to do that. So all he's doing is he's plunging the country deeper and deeper into debt. We are now deeper into debt with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank than we've ever been in the history of this country. I don't know how we're ever going to pay back the amounts of money that Cyril borrowed from those institutions. And the problem for us is there is no free lunch, comrades. When they borrow us that money, it comes with strings attached. They tell us, we'll give you the money, but you must get rid of your SOEs. You must implement this new liberal economic policy program. You must do all of these things, then you get the money. And they used COVID, in the COVID-19 regulations to control us. They also use COVID to loot. Because, comrades, you know that there were billions of rands that were supposed to go for assistance to vulnerable people who were suffering because of COVID-19. Instead of that money getting to the people, it was looted. It ended up in the pockets of Cyril Ramaphosa and his friends. The minister responsible for that funds that had to be handed out even had to acknowledge that the majority of people who got any money out of it were whites and white small and medium-sized businesses. The minister acknowledged the black small and medium-sized businesses did not benefit from those funds. So you can see, comrades, there is a concerted program to destroy the future of black and African people. That's why we have the 10 point. That's why we say the South African Reserve Bank must be nationalized. We can't have private shareholders for a reserve bank. That's why we are insisting that young people in this country must go for national call-up. That young people can get an opportunity to get trained, to get skills, to participate in a program of building up our structures. Young people, after a year of national call-up, will have understood what it is to work, will have understood what discipline is, will have understood what kind of training they need in order to make a success of their lives. Now, because of unemployment, young people are just hopeless. They don't have any horizon. They are sitting in a situation where they're sitting workless in the townships. They become the victims of crime. They become the victims of drugs. And we say a national call-up, together with a full civil society program of implementation, will really help to give our young people a future. We're also saying that we need to deal with this issue of crime. Crime is out of hand. And serious crimes must be responded to in a serious way. When people commit serious crimes, they must get long sentences. And those who commit certain serious crimes like murder with aggravating circumstances, rape, gender-based violence crimes, all of that, when they get the sentence, they must not be easily getting parole. In fact, life must mean life for them. And we say that the people must speak. We must give a voice to our communities with a referendum to say whether we shouldn't bring the death sentence back. So that is part of our 10-point plan. Then we also said, this thing of our borders just being open for everyone, where people who are undocumented foreigners just come in, they work for wages lower than what we as South African citizens are able and prepared to work for. They destroy our hospitality industry. You go to a restaurant, you find that almost all the waiters there are not from South Africa. Now, we are not xenophobic. We're not anti-African at all. But we understand that you first must get your own house in order. And you first must make sure that you take care of yourself, your own people. We want to introduce a minimum wage for South Africans. But it cannot be a minimum wage for foreigners. Foreigners who are undocumented and illegal must be returned to their countries of origin. So that is a clear part of our 10-point plan. And then the last point in the 10-point plan, we say, we must acknowledge that we should be part of those nations that care for us and want to develop the world. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and there are many other countries who now also want to join BRICS. We say South Africa must strengthen our BRICS relationship. There are countries within BRICS who have got a lot of resources. Russia has got masses of gas and fuel. We are paying the highest prices for petrol. Our petrol prices are pushing up all the living conditions in our country. We say if we can make a special deal with Russia, with China and other countries such as Venezuela, we can bring the petrol price down and we can bring down the cost of living in the country for all the people. So comrades, these are the plans that we as the African Radical Economic Transformation Alliance want to implement. But they must be in a very practical way implemented. We must be able to translate those plans into how do we address the problems of communities on the ground. Here, in your own community, how do we address the issue of poor education? What we see, schools not being managed. In this school, for instance, I hear the school was closed. And yet there's an education crisis, yet there's a shortage of schools and a shortage of proper, equal and free education. But we do strange things like this. The other windows out, there's nothing. But that was a good facility if we took care of that facility. So we say we need to pull all of those things together in a way that also addresses the needs of people in their own communities. The other day, ARETA participated here in the march to the regional offices of the Department of Social Development. Why? Because the NPOs had their budgets cut in a very arbitrary way by the NEC and by the Premier. And we related to that because we said these NPOs have got a huge job to do in our communities which the government fails to do. And we succeeded, comrades. Because of that protest and other actions, eventually Mpangazitha Niehus had to say, well, the budget is being reinstated. That's a success for us. We must claim that victory for the people and together with the people also for ARETA. So comrades, I want to conclude. We have a sacred duty to make sure that our country is not going to be destroyed. We have a duty to make sure that we can bring an end to load shedding, that we can address the urgent need for our people to have jobs, that we can address the issue of crime, that we can address the terrible gender-based violence that we are faced with. We can do it. That's when I said to you, I speak about the hope, not just the pain of having left the ANC. The hope is that an organization such as ARETA, with these plans, with these ideals, can indeed change the lives of our people. But then all of us must work together. Then all of us must make sure that we will understand what ARETA stands for, and we go out into the community and we work day and night to get that message across. I'm very grateful to what has been done here and what has also been done in the way that Theta, FM and everyone allows us, together with other political parties, because I'm not scared to debate with political parties, but allows ARETA to convey our message. Now the job is, comrades, to create branches throughout the country. And that's why I was hopeful that we will be able to launch the branch here today, but I understand that there's still some more work that needs to be done. I'm happy that we agree we're not going to rush things, we're going to do things properly. Because we do not want to do things the way the ANC does. We want to do things with integrity. You know what the ANC in the last run up to the national conference did? They will call it a branch meeting. There won't even be enough people for that branch meeting. Then they will go and collect somewhere in the streets people's IDs and scan them. Then they will add those scanned IDs as if the people were present in the meeting. I've seen them doing it. I've seen videos of them doing it, sitting in their cars doing it. Yeah. And then they claim that there was a call. Now, comrades, we are not going to behave like that. We are not going to have any of the old bad habits of the ANC because we want to empower our people. ARETA is part of the people. So therefore, we must make sure that we do things the right way. We also must make sure that the leaders that we appoint to lead this branch, all the other branches and all the structures, are not people who claim that they've got the right to leadership. You know, within the ANC, there's a small elite group. They think they are the leaders and the rest are voting fodder. We are just there to vote for them. We want leaders who come from the community. If you get someone to be a leader in a branch, know that person. Know that that person has cared for this community and worked for the community. That that person has a heart that wants to serve. And make that person the leader. Make sure that the leadership are people who will be committed, who will have integrity, and who will be competent. And people who are prepared to serve their communities. If we can do that, if we can have a different kind of leadership that is not an elite leadership but a servant leadership, if we continue to commit ourselves to those original ideals of our liberation struggle, if we go out and we mobilize in our communities and convey this message that I'm giving you today, if we make sure that everyone in our communities are registered to vote, comrades, I want you to listen very carefully. We need to register everyone who can vote.
Yes.
It doesn't help to feel despondent. It doesn't help to say, I'm not going to vote because the ANC has disappointed. If you do that, you just play in the hands of the ANC. Because the numbers may go down, but they will still continue to get some support. They will still continue to be the majority. But if you can get everyone in this country, everyone here in the Vaal and everywhere, to register, who can register, and convince them to vote for ARETA. And ARETA will work with the other progressive political parties, UDM, ATM, even EFF. All of them we will work to build a united front so that we can get rid of this thing. I don't want to call it an organization or liberation movement. This thing that is the ANC now. We must get rid of it. And we must put there a people's government that cares about the people, that is representative of the people, will implement radical economic transformation, will implement this 10-point plan that I've just explained. So, comrades, that is the message I wanted to bring. And my message to you is, it's going to be hard. We will have to work day and night. It's not going to be easy. We are going to be under attack because we are going to be feared. They're going to try and badmouth us with our families, with our friends. They're going to try and isolate us in our communities. They're going to try and destroy our jobs. They will try and prevent you from being able to take care of your family. But keep the faith. Stick to it. Hold on to that ideal. Because, comrades, if we don't, this country is finished. If we don't, we return back to being slaves in our own country. We become again the agents and the slaves of white monopoly capitalists and imperialists. We can't have people like Cyril Ramaphosa being our president. We can't. The man is not a liberation fighter. The man is not a person who cares for the people of this country. Now we need people who will bring the true liberation ideals that we fought for, that Comrade Chris was shot for, that Comrade Harry Gwala was poisoned for, to the point where his arms were paralyzed and eventually died. That what happened to Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela, where she was by Stratcom media programs so besmirched by the media and hurt. But remember, all of those people sacrificed their lives for you, for us. We have got a duty to make their dreams become true. In honor of them, yes, but also for the sake of ourselves, and especially for our children. Thank you, comrades. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to say that ARETA is an organization that is built on political ideology, not on individuals. And therefore, in every one of our meetings, political education must stand central. We must make sure that every member of ARETA knows the 10-point plan and understands what it means. And when I say we must understand what it means, I mean we must translate it into what it means for the people in this community. Remember, Amilcar Cabral said, the people are not fighting for highfalutin ideals. People are fighting to have a plate of food on the table, a roof over their heads. People fight to have a better life. Now, in the past, the old ANC, the one that I still believed in, spoke about a better life. This thing that is now still calling itself the ANC cannot speak about it because it will never deliver. It is our job to deliver a better life to the people of this country. Thank you, comrades. Amanda! Viva ARETA, viva! Viva! Viva ARETA, viva! Viva! One last thing, comrades. On Monday, the leadership of ARETA, the national leadership, together with the provincial leaders, are all going to Nkandla. And we're going to visit President Jacob Zuma. President Zuma has requested for that meeting because he wants to engage with us. He also wants to hear what our views are, and he wants to share with us his views. I also want to thank all the comrades who have gone over the last 2 days on Wednesday and Thursday to the High Court in Johannesburg to support President Zuma. It is not about an individual, comrades. Some people try to say on social media, yeah, you are just creating this God Zuma. It's not about an individual. It's about what that person stands for. And it is about the wrongs that have been committed against President Zuma. Remember, comrades, Cyril Ramaphosa has been acting against President Zuma in the most illegal way possible. Now President Zuma has decided to hit back, to bring a private criminal prosecution against President Zuma. Because we believe that every citizen is equal before the law. Doesn't matter who you are. There's not a special law for Cyril Ramaphosa and a special law for Jacob Zuma. There's one law and one constitution. So what we say, we went there to defend equality before the law. And we insist that Ramaphosa, like everyone else, must be held accountable in front of the law on an equal basis for the wrongs that he has done. He is not above the law. Thank you, comrades. Amandla.
Comrade President, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have to say, most of the time, most of the days, these days, I'm with you almost every now and then. But every day I keep on learning. I keep on learning. Thank you very much. My comrades, I think we are clear. Radicals, the direction that we're taking as a country, it's not going to be business as usual. We cannot drive the ship the way it has always been driven. Unfortunately, if we have to embark on something changeful, we must try for change. It means our implementation has to be different. For us to be able to see different results, we've got to do different strategies. And I'm happy that Comrade President has outlined the direction that ARETA is taking. You're not just any other normal organization that just erodes and then we do as we wish, we do as we please. We've got a mandate. Sure. We've got a 10-point plan. Sure. The release is on 10-point plan. That 10-point plan, that is not the final one. That is not final, Comrade Nopal. That's not final. We've got a lot of things. This simply says, comrades, we are starting all over again. We are building. We are building South Africa. And it is in the hands of every one of us. We are building. Okay. Let me just welcome the presence of Comrade Cde, Radical Cde. She's forever talking. She's forever talking. Yeah, this is Comrade Cde, all the way from Everton North. Comrade Cde, you are welcome. And we are happy that, I'm happy that you became part of today's lecture. Hoping those 45 people, they should learn from you. They should hear things that Comrade Carl spoke about. We may be angry, we don't act out of anger. We do things properly. Thank you very much, Comrade. I'm just going to hand over to the regional chair. And just before I do that, radicals in all the groups are always put across all the groups. ARETA is a new organization. Comrade Carl has spoken about the issues of resources and the funding, and how we're going to push the ideals or maybe the funders we want to be empowered. So, here is my plea. So, comrades, this is our organization. Let us fund this organization. And it's very simple. Zimbabwe, it's very simple to find the organization. Very simple. Youth League, it's very simple to fund this organization. Let's have people pay their membership. 50 rand. And that 50 rand lasts you for 2 years. That's it. Period. When we have 100,000 people who have paid up their own 50 rand, the organization can be able to run. It simply says, we cannot go on all doors knocking, then knock on all the homes. So let us encourage people to pay those 50 rands, and also those who are able, those who can, compensate, those who can, ousting, those who can. It's not wrong to contribute 50 rand to the organization every month, if you can. Sure. There's nothing wrong. We are taking the organization forward. Now, let me just welcome the National Chair of CDBN. This is the first citizen, ARETA, in here, ARETA, Comrade Perseverance, Pierre Law, Radicals. Viva, Comrade!
Amana! Viva, ARETA, viva! Viva!
First off, let me start by acknowledging the presence of the national leadership and the provincial leadership. Comrade President, thank you for embracing us with your presence. Comrade PS, thank you so much for embracing us with your presence. PC, thank you so much. Even though you are forever with us, but thank you for embracing us. Thank you so much. And let me thank Comrade Zakes. Comrade Zakes, your vigorous advices always helps this region to move forward.
Indeed.
Now, I would also like to thank everyone who took time off from busy schedules to be here. I say thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, leaders, unfortunately, I was about to make a speech. I'm supposed to make a speech as well. we are pressed for time as we have other engagements that are competing with this one. So from here, we ought to meet with our ex-combatants who are ready and they are eager to meet you as well, Comrade President, Comrade PS. They are eager to meet you as well. So because of time bound, we have to leave, comrades. We have to go to Zone 3 Stadium where our ex-combatants are waiting for us, so that they may be addressed as well. And I hope, moving forward from here, all of us, we have learned. Whatever that the President has said, surely we apply when we get to our respective branches. And if there is any clarity that you need, do not hesitate to call us.
Yes, indeed.
You need to consult. Don't just shoot from the hip. You need to consult. Okay. So, comrades, it's about time that we adjourn this meeting. Hopefully,
Yes.
those who are available, can you please come with us to Zone 3 Stadium, where we have another wing of this mighty organization.
Sure. Just before we close, Chairperson, our provincial sec, it would be very, very unwise.
Yes.
Don't say anything.
Thank you, Comrade President, Comrade Khan, Comrade Mpangazitha. I think that's appropriate, very appropriate. That name, we're going to campaign door to door, talking to people about who is Mpangazitha. They must identify. They must know. One day we will know where does this name came from. Mpangazitha, why was he given this beautiful name? You know. And thank you, Comrade Chair, and thank you everyone. Comrades, our next program that we must start working on, youth. That is why I've asked for that little minute to say to the youth, we are handing over to you from today to start mobilizing yourselves and start leading in the front for the day of the Youth Month, which is June 16. You'll be expected to take interviews to do the job, guided by the President and the leadership. we have proposed, Comrade Khan, that we should move from Soweto, well, because now ARETA is starting, we will definitely hand over 100% power to you. But now we must actually look after you, so that they don't steal you. Yeah, you're still vulnerable, you must be careful. They want you. So we will ask the youth to start coordinating themselves and make this June 16th a memorable one. We've set the date on the 16th day. There's a school where it's machinery or started. Morris Isaacson. We should start from marching from Morris Isaacson to Hector Peterson Precinct. And you young people, together with the President Mpangazitha, must lay the wreath. And then Mpangazitha, you will give the speech. Mpangazitha will close on that day, so we'll be there. And the leadership will be there. So guys, this is now your time. Sure. The time for young people. You've got a future in ARETA. The country is in your hands. We recognize you. We're not going to control you that you've been controlled.